Hello. Just yesterday, I did a video on Kingdome Come Deliverance 2. I put it out in the middle of the night, basically, because I thought it was, well, important to get it out rather quickly, because I'd previously made a video talking about what was going wrong with Kingdome Come Deliverance 2, and why people had every reason to be worried. Then Daniel Vavra put out a post that I honestly thought gave a pretty good answer to the concerns that had been raised. However, 550 of you didn't like that answer, and I want to talk about that. Because you might argue like, oh, it's like only like a sixth or something of people disagreed and so on, but that is actually still fairly important. I have on multiple occasions before argued that if a YouTuber can actually visibly see the negative side of their dislike bar, they do need to look into why. Now, perhaps there is an occasion where they're just getting botted, or brigaded, or whatever, it happens of course, but I don't think that's what's happening here. I think there is actually a genuine disagreement to be had, and I want to approach that in good faith. Because I do not want to be one of those YouTubers who simply declare their audience to be wrong and then moves on with their lives. Honestly, this is one of those things that over the years more and more I've realized that YouTube is a job, and as it being a job you have to do certain things that you find frankly morally distasteful on occasion, like clickbaits in thumbnails and so on. And sometimes it's funny, like with big-titted anime waifus, but on other occasions, well, you write titles which you're like, well, this is representative, but I am definitely clickbaiting it a little bit. And even years ago I would be like, nah, I don't want to do that, but it's YouTube. Eventually, you've just got to do what you can do to try and get noticed. In fact, we're going to have a later example of that in the video here, as the Kingdome Come developer, Daniel Vavra, actually decides to attack one of the people talking about his game, and, well, the title is immediately rather inflammatory, even though the conversation might not have been that inflammatory. Again, it's YouTube. At some point, you either simply play the game or you get out of the way. However, I still want to hold on to some shreds of my dignity, and so, when there is a disagreement to be had, I want to try and approach it as openly as I can. Now, there's 1,929 comments in total, so obviously I'm not going to be able to read anywhere near all of it, but I've picked out a few that I think are representative and decent, so I want to talk about them before we go on to a little bit more of a broader thing that's happening here, because again, don't get me wrong, Daniel Vavra is handling this about as poorly as he possibly could. But anyways, I've procrastinated enough. Wokeness is not a bullet, but a slow-acting poison that can kill even the largest of subjects if not addressed properly. Wait and see, and remember, this all started with give us the option before it became a mandatory to the point of a joke in the games industry. Okay, that is an entirely fine argument. In fact, yes, wokeism is insidious. It is a slow poison that does not begin with, oh, there are 50% black people in old school Poland, circa 1400, but it might begin with one little thing, one small concession that then grows larger and larger. Absolutely, I can see the argument there. However, I don't think it's the case here. Again, we are presuming here, mind you, but if there really is one guy, and he is a scholar, a physician imported from a faraway exotic land, and kept in a court, well, largely as a piece of curio, really, as a show-off thing, it's reminiscent of the story of, what was his, Niyasuke, that was it, right? Who wasn't actually a samurai, but instead Oda Nobunaga saw him as like, wow, you look strange. If I keep you at court, that's going to earn me tremendous prestige, then fine. And if the majority of other people around him view him with distaste and distrust, as they would, as a scholar from a foreign land with a strange religion, then I don't think that is the first step down the path to damnation in this case. Now again, I could be incorrect. We could be getting Kingdome Come Deliverance 3 with trans flag flying from the steeples. It is possible, but I am willing to give the benefit of the doubt here, as, well, there is the Anita Sarkeesian quote, isn't it? Everything is racist, everything is sexist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out. There is, in my opinion, absolutely a point where we grow too anti-woke, where we broaden the definition to the point where we become the Puritans ourselves, where we become the Karens, which are lambasting everybody else for having fun, like, oh, don't you know, there's this and this in that game. It's like, okay, and maybe we'll have a point, but maybe we won't. And if we want to maintain a grip on societal power, we do have to pick and choose our battles. Even if we view this from a purely tactical standpoint, as in Baldur's Gate 3, for example. There was a lot of woke elements in Baldur's Gate 3, from vitiligo to, I think there was pronouns in that one, to Act 3 and so on, but very few people actively attack that one because at the end of the day, it was still a good game, with varying degrees of quality throughout the chapters, but even so. And I too have already brought up the specter of good woke. What happens if there's a piece of entertainment that is good, but actually has actual, genuinely intended wokeist subversion in it? Will we be able to notice? Will it slip us by? And if so, what damage will it and can it do? And frankly, I don't have an answer to that just yet. I even saw it in the previous secret level Warhammer 40k episode, elements of that. So I think it is really as a question of to perfectly tune our woke dars here. Let's pretend adding the black guy was to improve the setting and story, and not because of ESG score, even though the same thing happened with the Witcher 3 Hearts of Stone DLC, where literally one brown person was added because game journals and Twitter reject Screech as CD Projekt Red for years. Now, I'm not aware about the Hearts of Stone thing because I am not that big of a Witcher person, but that too is a possibility, yes. Now, there is a latest thing here, where Daniel Vavra talks about how they make decisions in their game, and he brings up an example of the Saleh helmet, and he says that this wasn't really documentedly available in the area at the time, but we love Salehs, and we did find some examples of it being available earlier, so maybe it's okay, and so they decided to introduce it. Now that does sound a little bit like maybe they were, well, you know, there could be a Marley scripture dude in there, a theologian or a scripture academic? God, I forgot. Scholar! English. There we go. And we wanted to put him in, and so we did. And that's actually a comment that will mention that later. Could it be for ESG? Maybe. It's genuinely possible. Companies will seek out funding whatever it is available, so it could be. Maybe. How is it good news? He confirmed everything leaked, he cucked out, also Henry is already an established character, it's not Shepard. Well, yes and no. Henry has already had a few options in the past, like, sleeping with a married woman, for example. I think there was also, wasn't there a quest where you could read a magic book or something? It's been a while since I played, but I seem to remember something like that. So he's not quite as Puritan as we might remember. And there is definitely an argument to be made about the ability to choose in an RPG. Now, you can also have a game in which you are simply just a fixed character, but at least the way I remember, that wasn't quite Henry. But again, it's been like 5 years plus, so bear that in mind. There's a gay scene, that's enough to stay in my wallet. And you know what? Fair enough. We can refer back to the previous argument of should we be careful of overtuning our wokedar? I do believe so, particularly if we wish to retain the good graces of the majority of the populace. It's a tactical move, if anything, at that point. But if you yourself are like, okay, it has a gay scene in it, I don't want to have a game with a gay scene in it, I'm not going to play it. Fair enough. Perhaps even there will be a mod released post-launch. Will it have a workshop? I hope it will. Which simply just says, removes gay scene. Will it be playable then? I guess that's the next question, isn't it? My issue with this is that it's forcing the option on Henry. He's an established character and not some blank slate. It's extremely unusual that he'd have any interest in men considering the events of the previous game and his background. So this is kind of moving on from this here. And I do think this again is a solid argument. Henry is an established character who's had some questionable dalliances in the past, but certainly nothing gay, at least nothing that I could remember, or even any suggestion that he was bi or interested in men whatsoever. And we'll be thinking about a certain friendly character as well, and how the left has indeed made it impossible for men to simply be friends. See Frodo and Sam for more on that. But this could absolutely be perceived as a force upon a character, because there you go with the choice argument again, right? Personally, I'm of the opinion that if you have a game with romance in it at all, you should be able to romance whatever gender you want. Like Judy from CD Projekt Red? Yes, from Cyberpunk 2077. I thought binding her to a lesbian romance was, well, silly. Honestly, I saw no reason why you couldn't romance her as a man. She didn't act particularly militantly lesbian, shall we say, and so I'm usually of the free choice variety when it comes to this kind of stuff. But I can also see the appeal of playing as a firmly established character, though at that point, I also feel like you really maybe should go even further with taking away the options then, and actually soundly establish whether or not the character would do these things. Like, would Henry cuck a dude, for example, with a nobleman's wife, which Lum Lum did ever so famously on stream just a few days ago? You know, again, I think this might be a personal preference thing more so than anything. Years ago, they said the game would be more inclusive for modern audiences. They did say that. What was it? I can't remember exactly, but I think there was a mention of this. Well, I think it's been both. I think they said that it wouldn't be more inclusive, and I think they also did say that it would be more inclusive. I tried to dig up that old article, because I have got this fuzzy memory of it in the back of my mind, but, oh, I don't know, people like you try hard to make it look like it might not be the case. I remember the first being shat on by Wookers because I was too white and too straight. They responded by saying they would be blacks. This garbage of a game will be woke, I will boycott it, period. Well, there you also go. And that's the thing, if it is simply just, I've come to my conclusion, nothing you say can shift me, well, shit. You have become an extremist at that point, have you not? I'm not even saying that's a degrading term, I'm simply pointing out, if nothing can move you from your position of having a character, of having a gay option in the game, or having a black guy in the game, is too much, is that reasonable? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think that is reasonable. I think it is entirely reasonable to have characters of varying races, religions, and creeds in games where it makes sense. And if that character is a single scholar that is basically been imported by having been captured from an invading army, where he's kept as a curio and everyone dislikes him, yeah, no, to me, that is reasonable. Henry was not buying the first game, and I find it dubious as to why they made it possible for him to be so now, especially considering how Lady Stephanie's courting went in the first game with just accepting an reward led to sex without a second say-so. Also, is that the one? That's probably the one I mentioned. Also willing to bet $5 that the potential partner will be Hans. I hope not, because they'd possibly have a platonic male friendship in current year. Now, if that happens, I will be entirely on your side, yes. If it is Hans, and it's like, hey, we're such good buddies, let's bang one another, yeah, no, that will come across as incredibly forced. And it will also be, well, it'll stink too much of the left. At that point, I will agree with you, because that very much so does feed into you cannot have platonic male friendships in the current year. Hard agree. If it turns out to be Henry, I will throw up my hands and say that I was wrong. I do not want Hans to boink Hans, the best friend character. That makes no sense. There is no sexual tension there whatsoever, goddamn ever. If that is the case, well, tell me. I will happily admit to being incorrect there. I didn't cancel my pre-order because I believe in the studio and this man. I'm glad to have had that actually pay off. Yes, as far as I'm concerned. Show me one notoriously woke game with the gay sex in compulsory. This is a woke appeasement arch in the current cultural landscape. There is no other explanation for it, and I'm sorry to say, but you are coping. Well, firstly, woke appeasing in 2025. Why? That sounds like shaving my balls with piranhas at that point, honestly. I mean, surely, if I was going to appease the woke, I'd have done it somewhat earlier than now, when they were actually in cultural force. What would be the point in jumping ships now, of all times? Especially to the losing side. And so, I mean, a wondrously woke game with a gay sex is compulsory. I don't think it's compulsory. From what we've heard from Daniel Vavra and from all of the other leaks, it seems to be something that is actually difficult to guess to. What was it the Grums post said? You have to pass like half a dozen speech checks to get it? I don't think it's particularly compulsory. Again, it comes down to what you find to be too much and unacceptable. There is no trust established with this company. Their solution is to not pre-order and wait until reviews and bug fixes release. Also, WTF is Henry by for? I was expecting that the secret was about Wenceslas' historical proclivities and not my boy Henry. Okay, fair enough. And I would say there is some trust established with the company. Kingdom Come Crusade 1 was a non-woke game. In my book, at least, that gives them certain credentials. And Daniel Vavra, for his many missteps recently, has also been vociferously on our side. At least for me, that does build up some trust. However, not pre-ordering and waiting and seeing is always the best recourse. If there is some sort of red line you have that you do not wish to cross, and you are unsure whether or not it is in the game, well, again, it is a digital product. It will never run out of stock. The worst thing that can happen is that you get it on a sale. So, I am more than happy to encourage everyone to wait and see. Doesn't seem right to give a gay romance option to Henry when he has been straight as an arrow for the entirety of the first game. It may be optional in the sequence, but the consequence for crossing the path must be severe for the player if they're gonna commit to this, and it shouldn't amount to Henry just getting a few glares here and there. I agree as well. That's another thing. The big qualifying factor here is whether or not the consequences are actually appropriate to Bohemia in 1404. Was it 1404? I think so. If you bang another man, and if it sounds like you actually seduces another man, which is worse, and that becomes public knowledge, oh yeah, there should be severe consequences. Like, your family should disown you. Well, I think it's got killed, so, it's a bit of a spicy topic there, but the church should be on your case, absolutely. If you know any priests, they should be condemning you, rather vociferously, probably. Friends and allies within the nobility should be giving you the stink eye. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if somebody picks up a cow patty on the road and tosses it at you, and that's just the thing. And if you attack that person, the rest of the people around should come to help him and be like, no, he's in the right here, you filthy sodomite. Absolutely. So, let's do. All right. Was that? Oh yes, I was going to bring up an example here as well. So this is something that has actually been mentioned on Twitter. Was Henry gay in KCD1? You sold out the gay brigade. In my opinion, I identify as non-binary towards your stuff from now on. Hello bot farm. I have seen the same tweet a few times in the last 2 days. Update your bot before somebody notices. This isn't a bot, Daniel. This is actually an argument. You did turn a character from straight to gay, and the consequences for that should be severe. And again, lots of people have this argument, and it is a good argument. Why does he want sausage now? What is the benefit of having it in the game? The fans didn't ask for it, and the devs must have known that the fans would be pissed if they add gay sex, so why even add it if they are supposedly not woke? That's a good question. Honestly, I don't know. I think I think this one, yes. These are all post hoc rationalizations as to why within the game's universe this is possible or makes sense. The only scenario I could have accepted is if the black character was a historical figure, then okay, sure. Given the historical authenticity design they are going for, it would make sense and likely even be interesting. Well, there's the thing there. If there is a historical figure, then it would have been possible. And there were historical figures of Arab descent. I don't know about Mali. What was the name of the famous Arab scholar that traveled across Europe in the Middle Ages? So there are precedences. I do think that there is an argument of authenticity that can be convincingly made. Ultimately, they wanted to add these things and had reason for doing so before these in-game explanations. The question remains why they would add these things in the first place. Given the first game, someone wanted to add gay sex scenes and a black Muslim, and a heavy lecture the people of this world on how they are bad and he is better. Whether or not these things are possible or plausible within the world is irrelevant. The why is what matters, and I have no reason to think it was naive creativity. So that brings this as, why have it in the game? This is a good question. Genuinely it is. Now, I could happily see it as the original rationale being choice. In which case you could argue, whose choice? Well, a gay dude's choice, okay? Is being gay inherently woke? I don't think so. I've never thought so. In fact, I think giving over entire sexuality to a political position is silly. And I think it's one of the greatest coups of the far left that they managed to automatically identify their movement with gay in the mind of so much of the populace. So I think a rationale could simply be a guy going, hey, we've got gay fans as well, should we throw them a bone? And go like, yeah, sure, why not? Possible. Why have a black guy? Because they're like, okay, we're in one of the biggest cities at the time, wouldn't it be interesting to show off some racism? Because that's another thing that could happen. Okay, you've got a guy, he doesn't look like everybody else around. In fact, he's a scholar, it seems like. That's going to make him doubly suspicious, and the people around him are going to treat him poorly. How then are you going to treat him in turn? What is your moral compass as a modern day person going to say? Are you going to go, oh, he doesn't deserve that? Or are you going to, I don't know, set him up and get him executed? Because everybody is going to be proud of, way I would do it is I would set up a situation where everyone hates this guy and thinks that he did something wrong, like he stole something, for example. Oh, they're all thieves, you know? And then you get an opportunity to, you find that thing and you could take it. You could get something very beneficial out of it and set the guy up. And nobody would ever know that you did it. Nobody would even question it. If you simply point the finger and say, that guy did it, I saw him, everyone will believe you and will hang him without a second thought. You will never get any backlash for it. No one will ever know. No one will ever bring it up to you again. Is that a good act? Do you feel moral about doing it? See, that's kind of interesting. Particularly if he also acts like a haughty asshole to you and go like, your country is really shit, you know that? You get ambushed on the road and your women are abused. You're weirdos. Maybe I did find that stolen artifact in your bedroom. I think that would be very interesting, honestly. So that could also be a reason. But as you say, these are speculations at the moment. And it could also simply be that somebody at the studio was, well, we want that ESG money. Conceivable. Still disagree with making all NPC players sexual oriented. This is a more of a my personal preference critique, because I want to pick one of these two. Even if some are harder than others, would you be fine with a female character in 40k game becoming a space marine, but it's just harder? Or being able to talk to any character into completely reshaping their personality and it's just harder? Well, a bit apples and oranges here, seeing as you can't talk a woman into being a space marine, no matter how hard you try. But could you gaslight somebody into thinking they're gay? Have you seen the world the last 10 years? Have you seen the numbers of they-thems on Twitter? The number of clearly, obviously just regular women with she, they in their bio? Oh, fuck yes, you can gaslight somebody into thinking that they're gay. Holy hell. I mean, that's what we've been doing for the last 20 years, goddammit. So, I mean, we're taking an extreme swing here. But from me, my position, I am player sexual. So I'm thinking like, okay, if I really dig this character, I love their style, I love their getup, and then the game is like, actually, sorry, she's only into women, I'm gonna go and mod that. Yeah, like in Cyberpunk. I think that is a good thing, because at the end of the day, an RPG is supposed to be a role-playing game experience where you play a role. Now, perhaps that role is strictly defined, in which case it would make a lot more sense, a lot less sense, excuse me. But again, I prefer player sexual. I see the opposing argument, but it doesn't appeal to me. Again, I think this is just a preference of choice, honestly, more so than anything else. Now, we're also going to mention this real quick, because again, Daniel Vavra is doing everything in his power to make this worse. So, another grifter. No, our pre-orders haven't dropped because of the backlash. They have. dude, you know they have. Don't even try. We are seeing so many people on the internet saying that they're cancelling their pre-orders. They have dropped. How much? We don't know. The sold return copies ratio is the same as it was. What happened is that the preview hype was naturally waning. The 9 massively discounted games entered the charts. Monster Hunter is down as well. So this is a response to a Rev Says Desu video. It says, woke Kingdome Come Deliverance 2 backlash results in mass pre-order refunds as developer loses trust. Now, that is a clickbaity title, as we talked about previously, definitely. It uses woke, albeit in quotation marks, admittedly, results in mass, large letters, pre-order refunds as developer loses trust. Backlash. This is definitely a clickbait title. However, in the video itself, Rev defends Vavra and defends the game. And yes, no, this is true. There have been pre-orders. Now, mass, again, that's a clickbaity title, but we know there have been. How many? We don't know. We can only speculate based on how many people we see talking about it. And there have been a lot of people talking about it. So I think the use of mass there is entirely justified, if a bit, fantastic. Or visually appealing, shall we say. And then, of course, Rev comes back, labeling me a grifter in a video where defend your game from being labeled woke over rumored gay scene is wild. Yes, people cancelled pre-order, many did because you won't address the action of the community manager's code of conduct. Correct. And Vavra comes back, to be fair, well, sorry, but maybe don't use titles phrase like massive exodus to avoid confusion. Okay, so he apologized, he overreacted. To a degree, and then he goes and accuses him for something he didn't do, as there is no massive exodus quote here anywhere. Losing trust, coming out, using go Rev, yep, it's not mentioned anywhere. Again, Daniel Vavra is flailing. He feels like he's under attack, and he's lashing out. That's what he's doing. This, by the way, I have to put this at the end because this is what I don't want to be doing. When I'm making these arguments here, when I'm talking about these comments, I am doing so, as I said earlier, not out of a place of spite or even like dislike or hatred or anything, as I hope I've presented. I do so because I think there is a discussion to be had here, and I want to approach it in good faith. This, however, is flailing. As then Rev Says Desu goes back with a response video, and again, I mean, hey, it's a clickbaity title. Sure, I use clickbaity titles. Again, it is simply just how you do it on YouTube. If you want to get noticed, you're gonna have to do this. It's that simple. It's unavoidable. You can hate the game and you can refuse to play it, but you're not going to be getting ahead in any way from doing so, and therefore, I do not any longer consider it to be immoral or anything. And again, he largely defends the guy in this video here, even though the title might seem like it's different from it, right? And again, this too. Anyone interested in how kids do games were designed in regards to historical accuracy and also diversity? I feel like you're courting the backlash now. I can already see all the Twitter Nazis triggered by the word diversity flooding this tweet without even watching the video, and Daniel Vavra going there quoting lol diversity WTF. You're basically calling people Nazis now, my dude. Come on, just why? And it even makes sense in the video he posts, and it makes people bring up this, which is a genuine own. That's the problem. You need to look at this and respond to it. And I did have a quick blah 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 glance through his replies, and I didn't see him responding to it. If he has, then silly me, and I am sorry. But this is a good point. You were the one who said there were no black people in medieval Bohemia, period. Why have you changed your stance? This is at the heart of 99% of this backlash. Your inability to articulate why you have changed your position on this. If you have a good reason, you should lay it out. If you don't have a good reason, well, you should shut up and people should assume that you don't have a good reason. That's kind of the problem here. I remain on the side of, I'm going to buy the game, I'm still going to play the game, and I'm going to see. If, while streaming, we notice that it's woke, well, shit, shoot me. Literally. Well, not literally, because YouTube in Minecraft, etc., but I will have been wrong, and I will be happy to admit to having been wrong. And I simply ask that if the opposite appears to be true, that, well, everybody else is willing for that option to be on the table as well. Hopefully, this video will achieve the aims that I hope it will instead of the opposite, and I know that is very much so a danger of doing anything like this. Responding to anyone on the internet can have difficulties and dangers in it, but I genuinely do not want to be a YouTuber that doesn't listen to his audience. I don't want to be that guy, no matter the size I grow to, so I want to be able to meet this openly and honestly. And I hope I've been able to do that. So, until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all, once again, very much so for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.